Hello everyone and welcome, it's Shanna. Tonight we're playing along with Craft Roulette. The parameters for this project are tri-panel card, farmhouse, underleaf, and belts. So I'm just scoring my panel here because I need to have 3 folds, and I'm scoring it at, my panel's actually 5.5 by 11, and I'm scoring both ends at 3 3/8. And this will create the tri-fold effect that I'm needing to meet the first element of the challenge. So I'm just scoring my card and getting it nice and firm. Now here I'm lining up the corner of my card, the actual score line, and on the cut line, and then I'm taking the corner and lining it up to 1.5. This will create a nice little edge on my card just to make it look a little interesting. So I've done that and I've got it, and so now I need to do the other side the same way, putting the score line in the cut mark of the trimmer and putting the corner of the card at 1.5 again. And once I've done this, I've got a nice little fold with a little kind of a beveled edge on there. So it just kind of looks like a shirt collar. So now I'm taking what I'm calling my farmhouse colors, which is black and white. I'm using like a modern day farmhouse color scheme to meet the second parameter of the challenge, and I'm doing the same thing with it that I did with the card, is putting the corner of the paper on the trim line and going to 1.5 on the other corner, and that way they will line up. So I've got a little bend in my paper there. I was correcting it, and then I'm cutting it to 5.25, I believe, and that way I'll have a little bit of edge around this piece of pattern paper on my card base. And I'm just checking it to make sure that it looks like it's going to work. Gives me a little bit of an edge, and then checking it, and then I'm just realizing that I need to move on to the next piece, and I'm bringing in another black and white panel just so that I have some contrast or some interest rather than doing the same color. Now here I'm thinking I'm lining it up, but I'm wrong. I've got to flip it and actually cut it the other way so that it matches my panel, and I almost cut it and then I go whoops. And so then I'm trying to remember, what do I need to do here? Score line and then 1.5. And so that way I get the exact same angle that I have on my card base. Just checking myself, and then I'm going to check. I've got to cut it down because I didn't cut it to the 5.25 mark before I made the angle, so I've got to go back in and cut it to the 5.25 mark. So that way it'll line up nicely on my panel. Just checking this one again just to make sure that I've got it right and it looks good. So I'm just need to get these glued down. I actually decide to use my tape runner for this. Actually, I'm checking myself again just to make sure it looks right. And I'm also watching the show as I'm doing this, so the delays and the pauses in it is where I probably stop to check something out. But this is where I grab my tape runner and I decide, whoops, to just run my tape runner. I would suggest glue. With that corner piece and that thin paper, it kept rolling up on me. So I would suggest glue, but I guess my tape was handy last night, so I just grabbed it real quickly. Still working on that corner that was bent a little bit, just trying to get a good edge on here. I decided to turn the paper, and I thought it would help me line it up better along the edge there. The parameters this evening were a little interesting. I know I've been doing a lot of black and white cards, but the colors were farmhouse, and to me, when I think of modern day farmhouse, I think black and white. We just recently redid my sister's house in modern day farmhouse, and it is a black and white theme. So when that parameter came up on the wheel, I decided that I would go in that direction. I know I've been making a lot of black and white cards lately, but I like them. So this one, to get my underleaf, I'm going to put an embossing folder on the inside, and my leaf will be under my flaps. And I thought this was interesting because it'll make the inside of the card a focal point as well. And I like that, realizing I'm going to have to do something to be able to add a place to write on the inside of the card. So I decide I'm going to decorate the inside at this point. And I'm just going to take the scraps that I had from these two pattern paper, and I'm going to just lay some in there along the bottom of the card. I decided to go ahead and bring in both colors and just layer them, still using my tape runner, and making a little bit of a mess on my desk with the tape, but getting that laid down. And so I've got a little interest on the inside, and my leaves that I've embossed are under those strips of paper, so that meets the third element of my card. Now I'm just bringing in some of my stash. I already had some panels, oval panels that I had already die cut out and were laying in there, and I knew I had them, so I just grabbed those and I thought I'll just use those, lay those down, and have an area where I can put a sentiment in. And I get some glue. I find that I've got something stuck on there. I think it's a piece of adhesive. I don't know. I had it on my desk at one point before I put it in that envelope, and I think there was some adhesive on it. So just using my adhesive and laying this down, trying to get it in the center. And ultimately, I laid this down too high so that it peeks out of the top of my card when it's closed. And I later, which I don't think I filmed, I later pull it down so that you don't see that out of the top of the card. Maybe you like that peeking out, but I did go ahead and move it down later. Now I'm bringing in my score buddies so that I can create my belly band, and I make a score mark at 2.5, just so I have a good, clean score line to start off my belly band. And then I just glue it. Actually, I don't show you, but I just start with that score, wrap it around, and glue my belly band together so that it's got a little bit of wiggle room. Not a lot. You can see I'm trying to wiggle that in there. And then just slide it up. And I'm just checking it to see if I like it. And I think I did this band, this belly band, which is going to meet my belt parameter. I did it at 3.25. Was the width of it. And then I'm bringing in this die, which came in my time off line kit. It's just a single leaf die. There were a lot of other elements to that die, but I just chose this because I thought it matched the embossing that I did on the inside of the panel. So I cut 3 of those out, and I also cut the thanks out from Simon Says Stamp Basic Trio die. And I layered it up 3 layers thick, just so I'd have a little bit of dimension. I'm using my Barely Art glue to lay it down. And just getting it on there. And I pulled the belly band off so that I didn't accidentally get any glue and glue the band to my card and not be able to move it. So that's why I pulled it off for that. And then I'm just going to take these 3 leaves and figure out how I want to lay them down on my belly band. And I've decided I'm just going to cluster them. So, whoops, dropped one there, pick it up, get it how I want it again, and just cluster it. So I'm doing a voiceover because I'm dog sitting again, and the dogs were pretty noisy last night. So I was watching the video, so I thought I'll just watch the video, let the dogs do their thing, and then do another voiceover. So I've only done a couple of them, and I'm not as experienced at them, so hopefully it's going okay. But just checking to make sure there's no glue on the back of my elements so that I don't accidentally glue it to my card and then wind up with it stuck to my card and then ultimately tearing my paper. So it seemed to work out okay. And that's my card. I think it turned out nice. I hope you like it. If you do, consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel. I appreciate all of